The 2010s are coming to a close, and Red Dead Redemption is easily one of the best games of the decade, with the world you can explore, the stories told, voice acting, gameplay, and pretty much everything else. I'm out of clever segues. Can you beat Red Dead Redemption with only a Cattleman Revolver? Our story begins in the town of Blackwater, where the hats, mustaches, and kids running around unsupervised make it clear that this is not a game set in modern times. We, us, play as John B. Marston. The B stands for Beatrice, but I don't like middle names, so it's just John Marston. The credits rolled, an old woman annoyed me with her face and her existence, and I met up with Jake, a tour guide hired to show me around the town. Unfortunately, a lot of the story is told through dialogue, spoken while riding horses to a destination. I refuse to summarize what's said during every trotting expedition. If you're watching this for the story, I suggest you leave and go watch some other video. Jake reminded me of my father when he abandoned me after we arrived at Fort Mercer. I did the typical sharpshooter cool guy nonsense of threatening Bill Williamson despite 3 rifles being pointed at me. If this was a low-budget indie movie, I'd have killed all 3 of them and walked off with some witty comment. But it's not, and I took a bullet to the appendix, got rescued, and woke up at McFarland's ranch owned by, get this, the McFarlands. Bonnie told me that I owed her about $400 in today's money for removing the bullet from my side. This is obviously fiction. You can't even get a doctor to spit on you for $400 in America. She showed me around the ranch, which has a general store because this is the tutorial area, so it needs to have a place to buy things. I got my horse tied to a stick with a yarn I ripped off my belt, and we patrolled the ranch for rodents at night. I was given a rifle that I cannot remove from my inventory. It doesn't matter too much now. I've still got the Cattleman Revolver that I can use, and when you're shooting at rabbits, it doesn't matter how big the bullet is. Same goes for shooting at coyotes. There's also a fair bit of aim assist, which makes the revolver not completely worthless. After sleeping in a bed, I explained to Bonnie why I'm after Bill Williamson, told her I ain't no city slicker, and raced her around the ranch. We were neck and neck for a while, but the longer the race went on, the farther ahead I got. The world opened up a bit, I arrived in Armadillo, met a deputy who seems to be a little slow, and Marshal Johnson informed me that my problems are not his main concern. But this is a video game, so I made them his problem. We tracked some hoodlum with a fancy hat to his hideout, where I could face human enemies for the first time. I realized, several hours into this run, that a no Deadeye challenge might have been more interesting. But I chose this challenge because the Cattleman Revolver is the weakest revolver in the game, and it was one of the most common suggestions for a Red Dead Redemption video. It can take several shots to kill someone unless you get a headshot, which is extraordinarily easy thanks to Deadeye. It's also easy without it at close range. At a distance, it can become a problem. I shot Walton in the kneecap as an homage to Bethesda blowing the legs out from underneath the Fallout franchise with Fallout 76, looted the nearby corpses, saved a treasure hunter, and rode back to town to buy more ammo and sell the trash I'd picked up. The bandolier caught my eye as it doubles my ammo capacity, pretty useful when you're using what may be the worst weapon in the game. An even slower deputy interrupted my interrupting of Marshal Johnson to inform us that the cattle are being stolen at Pike's Basin. Story stuff happened, and combat got real. A whole bunch of Bullard boys were going to the big cattle farm in the sky. Without Deadeye, the Cattleman Revolver can be unpleasant to use when you're taking on a group of enemies from a distance, which is why it can sometimes be a good idea to let your NPC companions do most of the work. The cattle were saved. I spent longer than I should have trying to navigate my way out of this canyon, killed and skinned a few animals, and rescued Mr. West Nile Virus Dickens, which was why I wanted to be safe and take the quickest route to Armadillo. In other words, where we're going, we don't need roads. I don't know what it was that finally finished him off. Maybe the bullets, maybe the pebbles in his shoe. Either way, he died. The second time I stuck to the road, and he damn near keeled over by the time I got there. In my adventures in rescuing damsels in distress, I'd found enough animal skins to buy myself a bandolier, and head back to Bonnie's farming and mercantile supply store for more missions, I mean. She was asleep, so to pass the time I followed a dog around the ranch to look for critters. These 2 guys were fighting, so I shot them both. The commotion stopped, yet somehow I failed to stop any crime. This is Armadillo, USA, the loading screen says. It was a happy accident that I happened to change into my suit before driving Miss Bonnie into town. I bought some medicine from the doc, met Bonnie outside the general store, and that mission was over. I saved a woman who was being robbed and got shot twice in the chest in the process. The way his body spasmed after being shot let me know that he really didn't want to die. Thankfully, he didn't have a say in the matter. One of the many side effects of this being a Wild West game is that there is no fast travel, and that was the second lie I've told in this video. There is fast travel, but it involves setting up a camp, and because I'm dimmer than a shattered light bulb, I hardly used it. There's a solid amount of time through this playthrough that is just riding to a destination to start a mission, instead of just fast traveling there. There's no point in mentioning it every single time, so just know that it happens a lot. Back at the ranch, Bonnie learned a thing or two about my past, and I decided to help her with the cows. I understand that you can't have a successful game without cows, but man do I despise these cow herding missions. There's nothing too complicated about it, I just don't particularly enjoy it. Before I started the next mission in Armadillo, I looked at the list of main story missions to make sure I was doing the bare minimum. I got confused and thought this one with West Nile virus wasn't required. It turns out that all the missions that come from a letter on the map are required. But I wouldn't learn that until a little while later, which is why I immediately reloaded a prior save. That put me back at the ranch. I tried to ride a stagecoach and accidentally stole it instead, reloaded a save once more, and rode to Armadillo proper-like to accompany Marshal Johnson on a search for a group of bandits. 2 camps had been bamboozled by these bandits, who were holding hostages inside a house at a nearby ranch. The Cattleman Revolver is pretty capable when you're only facing 1 or 2 bandits at a time in extremely close quarters, primarily because of aim assist, which makes Deadeye almost unnecessary. The women were ungrateful for being rescued, and we encountered Bill Williamson on the choo-choo tracks. They opened fire on us, yet somehow we had enough time to take shelter in a collapsed building. At least 15 bandits were sent our way, but a headshot is more than enough to kill them with a single shot. The only downside is that it can be a little difficult to land a headshot when they're far away. Sometimes you think it's the head, when it's really the upper chest or a head or something. We captured good old Norman Deek, I looted the bodies, met Bonnie McFarlane Sr., and went to break some horses. The minigame here is dead simple. I didn't fail it once throughout this entire playthrough. Once the horses were dropped at the ranch, Bonnie and I went off to capture an entire family's worth of horses. With that many horses, we'd have enough glue to last a decade or more. The stallion ran off, and it took me a while to catch it because, and this is gonna blow your mind, horses are fast. Bonnie was kind enough to let me keep the stallion I'd lured into position, chased after, caught, and broke. How nice of her. There's a storm rolling in, and everyone knows cows melt when exposed to thunder. It's a race against the clock to rescue all the cows, since they're incapable of helping themselves. Lightning struck and scattered them all. I don't care about this anymore. We rounded up all the cattle and got them back to the ranch, where Bonnie asked me to go find her father. He got lucky. Had it not been for his mustache, he wouldn't have survived the bandit ambush. I stopped to skin the horses. Letting good skin go to waste is a crime against nature. Bonnie didn't care, that bitch rode off without me, and of course it was me who abandoned her. I didn't skin them the second time, and we got back to the barnyard on Nickelodeon. To get inside the barn, you've gotta do some platforming, because that's what everyone wants in their Red Dead Redemption. After almost breaking my ankles when I skipped the ladder, I slapped some horse asses, jumped a burning log, and saved the day again. In the time it took me to get from McFarlane's ranch to Armadillo, Bonnie had been stolen by bandits. One of Norman's friends wanted Norman freed in exchange for Bonnie's life. We rode fast and we rode far, all the way to Tumbleweed, where the bandits were camped out. They pranked us real good by killing Norman right in front of us. Poor Norman was probably traumatized from dying. I'm sure he'll get over it. Fun fact, Bonnie hung for about 30 seconds before I was able to fight my way through all the bandits in the camp and cut her down. She caught her breath while I cleared out the camp and was perfectly fine, which seemed odd. I just sent dozens of souls to Satan and saved her life, and she had the audacity to be snarky towards me. It was around this point I realized that West Nile's mission was not optional, and I still didn't use fast travel to get there because agony is marvelous. Nigel's mission for me was to drive him, his stagecoach, and his sugarcane, tobacco, and spices off to a land of new customers. I agreed to help him sell his faulty wares to a group of idiots. To prove their effectiveness, I shot a hat out of the air. That angered the owner of the hat and prompted him to begin throwing hands. I'm no stranger to the world of fighting. I know my way around a fist. I played it smart by blowing off his kneecap. Failed. The next time I tried losing the fight, which also wasn't an option. The third time I just killed him outright. The fourth time, I tried to kill Nigel instead. But there are no workarounds. I had to fight him with my fists, which means you cannot beat Red Dead Redemption with only a Cattleman Revolver. But I'm not gonna let that stop me. Next, I shot a gun out of his hand. Nigel successfully scammed everyone, and I rode to Coots Chapel to meet Seth, a friend of West Nile who has an affinity for robbing graves. This is step 2 in rounding up enough people and supplies to assault Fort Mercer. Seth needed to speak to Moses, a former companion who had a map Seth wanted. The game momentarily broke here, which was frightening. To distract the police, I stole one of their horses and rode off behind a boulder to hide. Moses tried to skedaddle, but I have rope, and I wasn't letting him get away. Seth scared Moses enough with his face and his teeth to get Moses to cough up the location of the map, and other things. Moses had played his part, so after the mission was over, I put a dozen bullets in his side and turned his intestines into gravy. Wes Dickens' job for me was to take part in a stagecoach race to earn some extra money. It took all of 15 seconds for me to get into first place, and that was where I remained throughout the rest of the race, all 2.5 minutes of it. Not very difficult. Another one of Nigel's friends needed to be recruited for the assault. This one is named Irish. I rudely interrupted him being drowned. I should have come back another time. He looked busy, but I didn't. In fact, I almost did the exact opposite. I killed his friends and rode with Irish while he explained that he knew how to get his drunk hands on a machine gun. It's in a cabin on the river, which is being guarded by bandits. Sorta. The bandits were there, but the machine gun wasn't. I found Irish back at the same place I found Seth a little while ago. He then directed us towards a minecraft, where a machine gun is located. I took out the guards and fought my way through all the bandits' topside until I could enter the mineshaft with no witnesses. There was a ridiculous number of bandits down there. Not that it was very difficult, because you're taking on 2 to 3 guys at most in each area. Many of them carried revolver ammo, so running out of ammo wasn't an issue either. I found the machine gun, pushed it back through minecart carnage, exploded, some absolute unit who was playing with a red barrel, and my work was done. I was going back across half the map for my next mission with Irish. I stopped early and rode a stagecoach there. Irish was harassing 2 nuns, as one does after a few shots. I knew that he would not lead me astray this time. I wouldn't let him. Shaky, not stirred, is one of Irish's friends who is currently being tortured inside a building. Diplomacy is not my strong suit. I don't even have a suit to begin with. So I parkoured my way on top of the building, sorta failed at sneaking inside. I alerted someone, went the complete wrong way, killed Shaky's captors as well as those who came to avenge his captors, played on a bunch of boxes, immediately lost track of which guy is Shaky and which is Irish, and drove the machine gun ammo to the safety of the ranch. While I was there, I went ahead and called in my warhorse kill streak, then didn't use it to get to Plainview. Nigel was nowhere to be found, so I stayed in the finest hotel in New Austin while I waited for morning. The virus tried to swindle a group of attractive gentlemen out of their cash. They didn't take it very well, prompting them all to open fire on yours truly. As we escaped to the Honda Civic Center, an absurd amount of horses carried men towards their death. I went through more than 70 bullets on the way to our destination. This was the closest I've come to running out of ammo. Luckily, the next mission was at that exact location, and was another boring horse racing mission. This race was a lot closer than the first, but I still won without any problem. While I was off racing horses, Seth was finding a bunch of dead bodies to defile. The map he's after is supposedly in one of them. Ordinary citizens would not be pleased to learn of a freak searching through the pockets of dead bodies for loot, so we took the long way around the city to his secluded spot. He got his map, and the treasure is nearby in the town of Tumbleweed. I seem to have a harder time killing the bandits inside than I usually do, most likely due to me not aiming for the head. The treasure Seth was after was a glass eye. That's it. That stupid bitch got clickbaited. It doesn't matter though, the time has come for the assault on Fort Mercer. Myself, the marshal, his deputies, West Nile Virus, Shaky, and I all gathered outside the fort and went over the plan. I hide in the box and pop out like the weasel to blast the Williamson guy to heck. It was here things took a turn for the worse. I popped out as planned, but my only option was to use the machine gun. You can't not use it. I know this for a fact, because I sat there for a solid 6 minutes not shooting anyone and somehow not dying. The option is not there to have any other options. You don't proceed unless you annihilate everyone with the machine gun. So I mowed down everyone, blew up my allies, and we all fought through the fort together. Then the reinforcements arrived and I had to use the machine gun again. We got not Bill Williamson. He fled to Mexico with Javier Escuela. I returned to Armadillo to prepare to head out, then did, and met Irish to begin the journey to Mexico. We don't have a boat. We have a couple pieces of wood stuck together with chewed gum and string. And we cut the string and drifted downriver to escape the bandits. I'll tell you now, this was a goddamn nightmare. In theory, this is not that difficult. Just shoot the bandits until you get to the destination. The problem is that there are a lot of them. Like, a lot. You're given a new rifle after you cut the rope, and there's a stash of ammo if you run out, so this would normally not be too bad. But there's no revolver ammo, so once you're out of it, that's it. You're fucked. I know this because it happened to me several times. At first it was manageable. Then I got a checkpoint. That's good, right? No, because I got a checkpoint with 8 bullets left, and there were at least 15 enemies left to kill. At one point I got to the very end, despite having no ammo left, and there were 2 guys there. I was defenseless, out of options, so I failed again. I had to rely heavily on Deadeye to land headshots with every shot. There was no wiggle room to miss. Luck was also a factor, as Irish had to kill his fair share of bandits without getting shot and dying. Finally, I made it to the end with 1 shot left, and I cheated, sorta. I killed 1 guy with my last bullet and used the lasso to subdue the remaining bandit. The way I see it, I didn't hurt him or kill him, so it's okay. Plus, I already failed the challenge, and I wasn't starting that mission over again just to get more ammo and maybe succeed. I looted one of the bodies, ended the hogtied feller, killed a horse because that horse belonged to the son of a shepherd, got my real horse back, and arrived in Chuparosa. I don't care how you say these names. Some fuckheads tried to steal my hat. They're dead now, as they should be. Met Landon Ricketts, who, based on the bottle shooting, is the Sunny Smiles of Red Dead Redemption Mexico. Landon, what a dumb name, had me terrorize a family of squawkers by turning them into confetti. Together, the 2 of us rescued someone from a group of bandits, escorted the stagecoach back to town, and began questioning the locals about Javier Escuela. Landon, still hate that name, not as much as Sue, but it's up there. Landon and I rode the train to an area where we could ride our horses to El Matadero to question a man named Carlos about someone named Luisa. Carl agreed to distract the guards while Rickety Cricket and I snuck our way into the stone hole. It took about a minute for me to figure out that nothing was happening and that I needed to be closer to Landon, but once I got it, the guards left, we snuck our way inside, and more than a few people died. Upside is, I finally got the proper Deadeye, with The X's that aired on Nickelodeon from November 25th, 2005 to December 13th, 2006. This place is like a prison or a hideaway or something. There were doors that had to be blasted open with dynamite, but I was more curious about what was behind the doors that weren't blasted open. We escaped with the horses Carlos left, the horse that was not mine and might have had a learning disability. The army of Not America was waiting for us along a path outside the canyon. Video game logic dictates that the protagonist murders them all while making sarcastic comments. With Carl's stomach full of hands, I rode back to town on my horse and sat down for a game of poker. When I was little, maybe 7 or 8, my dad played online poker a lot. One day, I asked him to teach me how to play. He said no, so I employed that tactic by folding every hand in-game. Somehow, by folding, I still managed to cheat and found myself in some sort of an encounter with people pointing their guns at each other in Mexico. It ended with a duel that I won. Then I killed some guy who had a hostage. Somehow, I can't help but feel that this entire thing was her fault. The next mission with Landon was an exciting one. We rode horses to a location. Truly an incredible experience. We had to take out a wagon holding prisoners hostage. I died here, did better the next time. Did the cinematic and climactic bridge explosion sequence, freed the prisoners, and that was the end of Landon Ricketts. On my way to meet DeSanta, I killed the police who were about to execute someone. Then I killed their horses too because no witnesses, and met Captain DeSanta. I can't tell if he's jolly because of his name or in spite of it. His mission for me was one of spectacle and grandeur. Defend a train from the Rebel Alliance wishing to restore Mexico to the old ways of having no trains. Their villainy is unmatched. They sent like 3 horses after it before they realized their mistake. But it was only a ruse. There were more on the train the entire time. The only logical option was to destroy a bridge and set locomotive advancements back decades. The lady we rescued from the canyon prison is heading for the Hills Have Eyes, and I immediately missed a turn, overturned the stagecoach, and killed us both. The police attempted to stop us by using force. What's the line from that stupid song? Many men have tried to take us and that many men were dead. Yeah, accurate. This is basically another stagecoach race mission, just without anyone else in the race, and I got to kill everyone I saw. For the second time, I made sure there were no witnesses. Horses are notorious for snitching on the white man, and almost fell in that hole again. Luisa had another job that required riding shotgun to a location where I had to save Reyes. This was tricky. From this distance, seeing exactly which person was Reyes was difficult. I tried a few times to just take out all the guards at once, but it never worked. Eventually, after a few failed attempts, I watched a YouTube of this mission instead of, just using the sniper rifle to look at who I was supposed to shoot. Why make things easy when you can make them difficult, as I used to say a few seconds ago. Reyes was saved, I cut him loose, and we went to meet Luisa in a van down by the river. They left, then I left, wiped out an entire bloodline's worth of wolves, and had to wait for several hours for DeSanta to wake up. I eventually got bored and just bought a house. See, millennials, it's not that hard. It was all worth it, because I finally got to meet the colonel, who has the greatest mustache in the county. DeSanta and I rode to a small town and wiped out everyone inside, which was harder than it should have been. I was a bit low on ammo at the beginning, but it didn't matter too much. There were just a lot of enemies to deal with, enough that I actually died a few times. The captain demanded that I burn down a few buildings with fire bottles. There wasn't anyone in the buildings, so this doesn't count against the challenge, which I failed already, so it wouldn't matter even if it did. The next mission was a little rough. You're working with some of Allende's captains to fight through a large encampment of rebels. It was so frightening that I burst into flames after falling onto a box that was on fire. It's easy to get overwhelmed by the number of rebels shooting at you. It doesn't help that you don't have a health bar, making it sometimes tough to tell just how close you are to dying. The worst of it came when we assaulted their base. Moving out from behind cover is tempting death, and the rebels are so far away that landing headshots, or any shots in general, can be difficult. Not impossible though. After several minutes of sustained gunfire and almost falling off a cliff, we cleared the castle, and I made use of the camp's fast travel system for the first time. Then, again, I had to wait for Captain Who Gives a Shit to wake up. I get that this makes the game world feel more real, like you're interacting with characters who are alive and don't only exist when you're doing something for them. But I don't find waiting in line to be fun. Waiting at the DMV is not my idea of a good time. Shortly after waiting, I quit the game for the day, came back, rode to my house, and slept away the night. I arrived right on time to catch DeSanta doing something promiscuous, and was informed of my next mission. I didn't know it at the time, but this would turn out to be the worst one yet. The first problem is that we're riding to town on a stagecoach, but there's dialogue, I can't skip it. Then we got to the train station, where I was told to man the machine gun. I wasn't forced to though, so there was not a chance in hell that I was going to use it. The thing about this mission is that you're not just killing everyone that comes after you, you're defending the train's engine. So in addition to taking out everyone, you've also got to be quick enough that they don't damage the engine. Wave after wave after wave are sent after you. Even if each one only does a little bit of damage, it adds up over time and results in failure. I also went into this mission with less than a third of my maximum ammo capacity. That became a problem real quick. I didn't waste too much time after that. I quit the mission, stocked up on ammo, chewing tobacco and moonshine for Deadeye, and medicine to heal when necessary, and started the mission again. I was more careful this time, using Deadeye at all times, to ensure I wasted as little ammo as possible. A headshot is still an instant kill, but even being as conservative as possible with my ammo, I almost ran out. The upside is that I'd gotten a second checkpoint, and restarting from there restores the train's health. I don't get any ammo back. I have as much as I did when I got the checkpoint, but I'll take all the help I can get. Almost 40 minutes after I started the mission, I killed the last enemy on the train. I wasn't actually sure if that was it, because it seemed to stop so suddenly. So I stood in place, motionless, until we got to our destination. Back at the colonel's compound, I was told that Williamson and Escuela had been captured nearby. DeSanta and I rode to town. I entered the church, and the big twist happened. The double cross. But because this is a video game, they got sophisticated with their execution, instead of just putting a bullet in my head in the church. Maybe they didn't want to offend God or something. I wouldn't have worried about that. If anything, I'd have done the opposite. I'd have killed myself in the church with them in it to cast a voodoo spell on them. Reyes, the same Reyes from earlier, saved me. I got my stuff back, fought my way through all the soldiers, killed Captain Espinosa, and started working with Reyes. As we rode, he explained the plan. I'm stealing a train that's being guarded by an army's worth of men. You're supposed to go in stealthily to avoid alerting anyone. The quietest weapon I have is my revolver, which is more than a little annoying. Clearing out the few men in front wasn't too bad. Getting into position to detach the train car prevents you from taking damage, but you still have to kill everyone else. The train is important, so they've got rifles and such for maximum effectiveness. There are also a few mounted machine guns that are capable of turning an entire family into Swiss cheese in seconds. Oh, and dying means you go back to before you detach the train car. Because this is a game, my first attempt was the most successful. After I died, it became significantly more difficult. I had to play it safe and avoid being caught in the gaze of a machine gun lest I be ripped to shreds. It took some effort, but I got it and rode the train towards Valhalla. Once Reyes showed up, I started doing something outside the game. I was gone for so long that my Xbox shut off. Back in the game, I went to see what Luisa had for me to do, thinking that the train robbery mission was over. Her mission was another one of those where you're given the opportunity to use something that isn't a revolver. I, of course, did not heed that opportunity, and instead made things more complicated. Use dynamite to blow up the wagons, the game says. It'll be sweet, it says. You have to stop the army convoy, but you don't necessarily have to use the dynamite. I had the dynamite planted, but ran at the army convoy on foot with a handgun like a rabid ferret to eliminate them the easy way. All things considered, it was far easier than it should have been, probably because I used a nice looking boulder as cover. Revenge is a dish best served in a graveyard, which conveniently is where Captain DeSanta is at. His friends tried to protect him as he ran, but as the saying goes, Captain DeSanta is fast, but Big Bird is faster. I caught up to him on my horse, hog-tied him, was oddly amused by the way his feet bobbled as I trotted back to camp, got Escuela's location from him, put a bullet in each of his limbs, then finally his head, and the legend of Mexican Santa was no more. He was an asshole to the end. The location he coughed up through the few teeth he had left was not the right place. The woman who told me that was rude to me, and she is also dead. Thinking I had a new mission from Reyes, I returned to him. As we rode right merrily along, it slowly dawned on me what was happening. This was the start of the Mexican train robbery mission. This is where things might get controversial. I already did most of this mission. You saw it, I lived it. I'm not doing it again. I purposely failed several times to get the option to skip the checkpoint. Blew the train open, cracked the safe, gave Reyes the Denny's coupon he was after, rode to the prison with Reyes, and launched myself into orbit. I finally found Escuela. He ran as expected. I tied him up. My horse pissed me off by walking away from me, and the army came for the prison. Or Escuela. I'm not sure which because it doesn't matter. The cannon is primed for the firing, but it, like the machine gun on that train, is not required. I didn't use it. Got team killed by someone who was clearly never played hardcore team deathmatch, and spent several lives trying to get down off that tower without dying to get myself onto the ground. It was harder than you would have thought. The game really wants you to be on that cannon. The team killer did most of the work while I was on foot. I delivered Escuela to the government men, and my time in Mexico had almost come to a close. But my work is still not done. Reyes had been taken hostage, and it was up to me to save him and his men with faces to help him fight his way to Allendez Fortress, where Bill Williamson was hiding. There was a machine gun up for grabs that I didn't use. Seemed like something a lame loser would use. Running down Williamson was about as Wild West in Mexico as you'd think. But for some reason, this guy down in front wouldn't die. It was weird and frustrating. The wagon stopped when the horses died. I shot Allende right in the nose, killed Williamson, fast traveled to Armadillo, stocked up on supplies, bought myself a pale horse, and rode to Blackwater to meet some government fools. Had to wait again. Fun times there. Inside the building, Edgar Ross and Archer Fordham, fucking weird names, told me that my work was not over. Dutch, the former big cheese in the land of cheddar, is held up on a boat nearby. I was given a neat new gun that I can't use, got to ride in an automobile, and spent several minutes trying to get to the top of the boat because I'm stupid. Once I did, I uncovered my early birthday present, an informant named Nastas who had to be carried to safety. I accidentally used the high-powered pistol because it was out by default, so I let myself die. Made sure I had the Cattleman Revolver equipped, started blasting, and we all made our escape like a big happy family where mom and dad both hate you, you hate them, and your uncle is passed out in the bathroom. While Dr. Harold healed Nastas with his magic, we went up to the roof to lead the charge on Dutch. As I'm sure you probably could have guessed, doing this mission with a pistol instead of the sniper you're given was not a fun time. I had less ammo than I would have liked, and I couldn't see where the enemies were inside the building. Deadeye could be used, but I was low on supplies to replenish it. Using the sniper to see where the enemies were didn't work out very well. By the time I switched back to the revolver, I couldn't tell where they were anymore. I attempted to get off the building several times, with each attempt being a spectacular failure that resulted in both my death and failing the mission. Waiting for the last standing survivor to exit the building was my only option. Dutch said howdy when I finally found him, used his gun to turn off a woman, fled through Bear Claw Camp that was littered with neither bears nor claws, and somehow we missed him. He had a 30-second head start at most. I have no idea how the hell he got away. But he did. I went inside a shop, saw press Y to open container pop up, and pressed it on instinct alone. Spent some time in jail, and I left town with Nastas and Harold to travel to Cochene. This was not a pleasant experience. It's platforming in an action western game. I hate it. Some insane miners sent a cart of dynamite down into their mine and ambushed us as we escaped. Nastas got shot in the hand and didn't handle it like a man. I popped an eagle, and there was another instance of a non-revolver being required. This guy had to die. My idea was to sneak up behind him and hit him with a gun. It didn't work, but after thinking about it for a while, I realized I could just use the lasso to subdue him. Dutch shot my glasses. I blacked out and was taken to the nearest Pokemon Center to recuperate. From there, the three muskrats ride again, this time to Bear Claw Cabin to parley with those wishing to settle things diplomatic-like. That didn't really work out. Nastas got an owie. I wiped Nature's floor with the gang members, got Harold back to his office, and Dutch pulled an Anton Chigurh by showing up outside the hotel looking for his man. He had snipers, planted in high-quality soil atop a few nearby rooftops. They were tricky to take out from a distance, but not impossible. I got temporarily killed, escorting Harold to the choo-choo tracks so he could leave town, and we said our goodbyes. True fact, Harold would one day make his way to New California, slip in a puddle of FEV in the early 2100s, and become a living tree. In Blackwater, Edgar explained that we were going to get Dutch the old-fashioned way. I hopped in the back of an armored car that had been armored with a machine gun, and we rode towards some place whose name I do not know. I failed the mission when my fingers slipped and I killed a friendly. There is no option to not use the machine gun, and with the number of bandits shooting at you, there's no chance that you can possibly get through this without shooting anyone with a machine gun. There's nothing extraordinarily difficult about this section. It's like an on-rail shooter. See the target, shoot the target, don't die. I did explode into a T-pose at one point though. The truck was demolished by a drunk driver, so we headed out on foot, specifically the foot of horses. I, of course, took a shortcut through the forest. Roads are for suckers. Yeah, my horse fell off a cliff and died. I took his skin to keep his memory alive, as I hope my family does for me when I die. Ran on foot for a while because there's a cooldown period, and arrived at Dutch's camp. There are a lot of guys to kill, but there were also a lot of guys on my side. Once the gate was blown open, I used logic and facts to destroy the idiot behind the gun, chased Dutch through the caves, and he took the easy way out. Edgar was a snob to me. He told me where my family was, and as a song played in the background, I rode home. To be honest, they all seem like terrible people, especially the boy. I took the boy over the river and through the woods to Bonnie McFarland's ranch to get some cattle from her. I still hate these cattle herding missions. Some rapscallions who were looking for trouble tried to steal me cows. Personally, I would have put them in the pit of torment for such crimes, but death is an acceptable alternative. Then a new problem. Your family member is not here right now. Come back later. 2 possible missions are available, and I can't do either because neither person is here. Even though this is where they live. Where else could they possibly be? I went camping in a field, came back, woman was cooking something, and suggested I scare away some birds. This is the kind of mission that would normally be nothing short of a cakewalk. When your only weapon is a revolver, it's not so simple. They're such small targets and are moving so quickly that your only option for attacking them is deadeye. Once the birds were ready for stew, I had 3 missions that could not be started. So I rode to Blackwater to buy some ammo, but it's nighttime and the shops are closed. After waiting for over 20 real minutes, I went into the clothing store and accidentally opened that fucking chest again and went to jail again. Then I got my ammo, went home, started a mission with Jack, killed his horse because I thought it would be funny, and together we followed a small dog into the woods to look for elk. Shoot, skin, go to town, sell skin, nothing complicated. The next mission saw Jack and I following a small dog into the woods in search of much larger dogs that could no doubt kill us all. They were wolves or coyotes, not sure which. They're all dead from bullets, so it doesn't make much of a difference now anyway. A letter came for me, the dumb woman couldn't read it, so I read it to us both, and together we rode back to Fairlane Town Center to deliver some grain. That's corn for you city folk. The only stipulation here is the timer, but unless you ride the short wagon, that won't be much of a hindrance. Back at the ranch, the boy was gone. He'd decided to succumb to the call of the wild and go live with the bears. I knew I had to get him back, which was why I broke out the big guns. Rufus. Rufus would not lead me astray. He led me straight to the bear territory we gifted to them some years back. I promptly dispatched of the bear and saved the boy. He looked like the kind of loser that would say gee whiz unironically. The last remaining set of missions came from Uncle. The cows were hungry for cow food, so we took them out for a stroll in the great American countryside. Almost all of them ran headfirst into a train. Somehow many of them survived, but were scattered, scared, and scathed. Uncle rounded them up, while I killed the men trying to steal the train, and we led them to the pasture. He left me with the cows. I'm not sure what happened to the cows. I left them alone in the pasture and never saw them again. Then we tracked down a group of horses. I mounted several of them, and that was that mission. I was engaging my son in mindless conversation when Uncle informed me that something was coming. Something bad. I think I said something to the boy about going inside, locking the doors, and not coming out. It's honestly hard to tell. Marston only said it like 50 fucking times. The saying goes, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. but whoever said that got a few details wrong. It's actually, hell's got nothing on that bitch named Edgar. If he'd stayed in the hole where he belonged, he wouldn't have been able to lead the assault on my land. Countless soldiers stormed the ranch, and almost none of them carried revolver ammo on them. They got closer when we retreated to the house. Uncle took a bullet to the chest and died. Abigail, Jack, and I escaped the porch and fled from them. I was quite low on ammo, so I had to make sure every bullet count while also remembering to save one for me. Boy and woman got on the horse. I slapped that pony's ass. They left, and I was alone in the barn. I took a quick peek outside. Lots of men with lots of guns. I swung the barn doors open. Deadeye activated. I hit the wrong button and got torn apart without ever firing a shot. Edgar took his leave. Boy and woman returned to find my corpse. I'm a ghost now. Time passed. Woman was dead, and that was that. Almost. There's one mission left. Boy spoke to a nerd in Blackwater in hopes of getting the location of Edgar Ross. The nerd had served his role in life, so Boy killed him, met Edgar's wife, then his brother, and finally confronted Edgar. We tell ourselves that we are the wild, wild west, so we settle things like simple folk, a duel. Boy had hoped to take out both of Edgar's knees and elbows, but Edgar was spry, even in his old age. Boy got. Boy respawned and was farther away than Boy would have liked, but Boy knew where Edgar was, so Boy didn't have to track him down again. This time, Boy won the duel by storing one of his bullets in Edgar's head for safekeeping. And I did not beat Red Dead Redemption with only a Cattleman Revolver. And that's going to do it for this video about whether or not you can beat Red Dead Redemption with only a Cattleman Revolver. If you enjoyed the video or learned anything, leave a like. Leave a dislike if you didn't enjoy the video or didn't learn anything. Thanks to the Champion tier supporters as well as the other channel members for helping make videos like this one possible. Join the Mitten Squad Discord server through a link in the video description that may or may not work. Follow me on Twitter at Mitten Squad. My name is Alfonso of Mitten Squad. Have a wonderful day.